Unless you're one of the fortunate few who has been able to exist in today's world without being relentlessly bombarded with social media, you are probably aware that relationships appear to be in decline, at least according to every professor specializing in the world of human interactions, or other less qualified talking heads on YouTube channels. The overriding assumption appears to be that the decline in relationships represents some kind of crisis for the human race. In particular, the focus on monogamous sexual relationships. Before we all bemoan the loss of something, shouldn't we be asking a rather very basic question? Why do we even think that monogamous sexual relationships reflect the natural order of things? The answer may lie in the concept that has come to be known as the Malthusian trap. The Malthusian trap is an economic theory developed by Thomas Malthus. It describes a cycle where population growth consistently outpaces the increase in food production, keeping most people at a subsistence level. When conditions improve, such as a result of better farming techniques or the acquisition of new land, then the supply of food increases. This leads to population growth due to the fact that people are healthier, producing more children, and have a greater number of those children survive to adulthood. However, population growth eventually catches up with the food supply. With more mouths to feed, the per capita resources again fall to subsistence level. Any technological development that increases food production just triggers another round of population growth, preventing lasting improvements in living standards. Hence, this creates a trap where societies cannot escape from poverty. Wages do not increase above the general subsistence level because labor is abundant, and any surplus gets absorbed by the more people rather than increasing living standards. The prevailing economic theory is that the Malthusian trap was broken during the Industrial Revolution, when technological progress became rapid enough to outpace population growth. While there is likely to be a lot of truth in that idea, there is another factor that contributed greatly to the escape from the trap: changes in demographics, specifically the reduction in the number of children that people were having. It could be argued that nature presented civilization with a problem that needed to be solved. If men and women were able to go around having sex with each other without any restrictions, then the outcome would be an uncontrolled increase in the population. Enter the idea of the monogamous sexual relationship. The solution that was found was to force the costs of offspring onto the people who were responsible for creating those children. Prior to that, the burden of additional mouths to feed was borne by the society at large. So initially, the benefits of new offspring might have exceeded the costs in terms of production versus consumption. However, as diminishing returns will set in, the situation will eventually turn into a net cost. Once a potential solution had been found, then comes the process of making it stick. This required systematic indoctrination. Cultural beliefs were built up to support monogamy as the correct way to live life. The main weapon was social disapproval of individuals who did not follow this new established norm. As we are social creatures, the desire to fit in with the group made this a compelling force. Monogamy was then given an institutional footing by the legal and political frameworks such as those of the ancient societies in Greece and Rome. While religions have some stark differences between them when it comes to their respective beliefs, it is interesting that monogamy features so widely across a lot of religions. Even with the exceptions made for those religions where polygamy was accepted, monogamy was still the prevalent practice in a lot of societies when it comes to religion. Religion was used to give monogamy moral persuasiveness. It gave the idea of a monogamous sexual relationship the apparent backing of God. Given the extent to which religion influences people's opinions of right and wrong, it was the perfect way to get people to blindly accept monogamy. But what about polygamous societies? Yes, these have existed throughout history and still exist today in some small pockets. Generally, it was men with the wealth to be able to afford to feed all those mouths that were able to secure multiple wives. Even then, it was not unrestrained mating. The men were actually marrying the women they were procreating with. I am, of course, speaking of non-monogamous relationships that were endorsed to some extent by a particular society. That's just a polite way of saying I'm not looking at sort of your typical baby mama and baby daddy situations. Monogamy is a solution to an economic problem, dressed up in morality by religion and cultural practices. In the absence of any form of social conditioning, would human beings gravitate towards monogamous sexual relationships? Let me know what you think in the comments below.